It's been a while since I have put out some content, but hopefully I'm back at it now and we'll get some more YouTube tutorials done. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Debbie Hunker and I am Canadian. I live here in Alberta, Canada. Um, I have my own Facebook group and I will put the link to my group in the description. I have gotten back into being able to get some sewing done, get some more handbags made, that kind of thing. So I've been posting quite a bit in my group again. And one of the things that got quite a bit of attention is when I made this little bag, the strap connectors. There was a lot of interest in knowing how I did that. So I have put together a little tutorial to walk you through kind of start to finish of what I did. Now, I will be the first one to say that I am not a Cricut design, a Cricut maker professional, but the process that I use is what works for me. So I hope that you at least get some ideas and can kind of go from there. So I used my Cricut to cut out the templates for, well, actually to cut them out of leather. I'll just grab this one here. So they actually started off this way. I go through the whole process of how I got it to this point. So I hope you enjoy this tutorial. Thank you so much for joining me. If you found value in the videos, please like it, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, click on the bell so that you get notifications of new content, that kind of thing. All of that really helps me bring you more content. So I appreciate you, and I really hope that you get some value out of this little tutorial. At the very least, get some ideas of how you can make it work for you. So I'm going to start off with a new blank canvas, and I'm going to upload an image. Now I have saved, I'm going to bring in this, what I call the Lola strap connector. It's saved as a JPEG. Now on my actual pattern piece, now you can't read it, sorry, I put some measurements on there, and I have written on there 2 by 4.5. That's in inches. It's going to be important later on just to note that. So I'm going to go with a simple image, and I'm going to continue. Now I'm going to remove my background. Now you can actually see here I have 2 inches by 4.5 inches. So I guess write that down because we're going to need that measurement later because it's going to disappear. So apply and continue, and I want to cut image. Now if I did the print then cut, it would want to put the pen or use a pen and put the 2 by 4.5. I don't need that. So I'm just going to go straight to cut image, and I'm going to upload that. Now I'm going to select it because I want to put it onto my design space or onto my canvas. So I'm going to add it to my canvas. Now you're going to see, whoa, it's huge. My sizing is all completely wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here. And right now this is locked, which is fine. I'm going to change my width to 2 inches. Let's see what happens. Okay, so my height is 4.483. I want that to be 4.5. So I'm just going to unlock this, and I'm just going to change that to 4.5. So it's just going to change this ever so slightly, no big deal. Now I also want to duplicate this. So I want to cut 2 of them for my handbag. Of course, if you had, if you're doing 4 strap connectors, whatever you're going to do, you're going to just print them all. So now I'm going to go to make it. So it's going to sort my stuff. And it's just putting it on. This is fine because I'm going to put my leather on to my cutting mat, and I want it to use want to make the best use of my leather. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. That's totally fine. And I'm going to continue. Might take a second. All right, so I'm going to set my base material as my thin garment leather. And it's going to ask me to load the knife blade in. I'm going to do that. So this is what works. This is the setting that works for me. And now I am ready to go ahead and cut. Now I have just one mat right now that I'm using just for my leather stuff. You can already tell there's kind of some schmutz on it from other leather. I'm going to take my piece of leather. Now I have cut this. This is a little bit bigger than what I actually need, but for demo purposes, this will work. Now I'm going to take it, I'm actually going to put the finished side down so that I don't get all of the suede side sticking all over my mat. So I'm just going to stick this down to start off with. Now this is kind of an important step. I'm going to use some masking tape. And if your Cricut cuts through this, this is no problem. But it's a really good idea. I mean, they do recommend it to begin with, but it really does help keep everything where it's supposed to go. When you watch this cutting, it actually cuts 4 times. It goes over it 4 times to cut all the way through all of the leather. So you don't want it shifting, otherwise it's going to, your cuts are going to be off. So it only takes a minute to get this taped down well. So there. So now this is ready to go into my maker. So this is where the magic happens, as they say. I have my deep cut blade is loaded. Now it's telling me over here that it needs the mat inserted. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. With the Cricut, and I'm probably, I would imagine that all of them are this way. You need to move these little guys kind of slide over. And if you don't move those, and especially if you're working on the right side of your leather, they run up and down and they will leave marks. So I've got mine, this one is going to be fine. This one is over far enough that it's not going to hit. So I'm just going to load my mat. And it's just going to kind of do its thing. It's going to think about what it needs to do. Now it's giving me the little flashing Cricut. And it's just calibrating right now. And now it's flashing to let me know it's all done. And let's go see what happened. Okay, so now the moment of truth. Now I can see, and you can, right here, it lifted up a little bit, but that's no problem. We can just take this off. Now you can see, yeah, it cut right through the masking tape. It's totally okay. And when I take this off, there we go. So now I'm just gonna peel the rest of this off. And I have 1 and 2 perfectly cut strap connectors. So this keeps everything completely symmetrical. Everything is very, very nicely cut. Yep, there's some, I mean, we've got some kind of the hairiness from the suede side, but we will take care of that when we edge coat. So this is where we're at right now. Now, we'll just continue on and I'll show you how I stabilize. Right here is where my little D-rings are going to go. I need to stabilize that so that they don't stretch and pull. What I'm going to use to stabilize my strap connectors this is actually just a piece of the lining that I sell. So this is a waterproof lining. Lots of leather workers will use Cordura, which is basically just a brand name. Cordura is, and it is a waterproof canvas. The thing about this is that it has no forgiveness. Like there's no stretch to it at all. So this is a nylon product, and my connectors are for use. I have cut these specifically or designed them and cut them out for use with 1/2 inch D-rings. So this part right here is 1/2 inch thick. Now, I don't want to be able to see, I don't want any of my lining or my stabilizer poking through on either side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this down. This is just a little scrap that I had hanging around. So I'm going to go 1/8 of an inch narrower. So I'm going to go 3/8 of an inch is what I'm going to cut. Now this doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, I like to do everything with a little bit of precision, but so I'm just going to cut that, and I'm going to end up just kind of cutting these down a little bit into some smaller pieces. Again, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but I'm going to get these roughly about the same size. Now, I've got a piece of parchment here to protect my work surface. I'm going to be using some glue. The glue that I'm going to be using is called Eco Weld. I buy it in large bottles and then just use a condiment bottle to be able to at least use it, a little bit of it at a time kind of thing. So just for the convenience of it. This is a water-based contact cement, but it actually can be used as like wet as well. So we're actually going to be using it both ways. So right now I'm just going to put a little bit of glue, and that was plenty already. Just going to put it in the center right here. And it doesn't matter which way, there is a right and a wrong side. I'm just going to put this in here. And it's about centered. Now the reason why I didn't put glue all over everything is because now I have to get this fat part through my little D-rings. So in order to do this, yeah, this is going to be not attached. That's okay. I'm just going to kind of fold this stuff up. And I'm just going to slip that through, and that one's good to go. Now, Now I can put the glue on the rest of it. So I'm just going to put a little bit underneath. Well, okay. or a lot. A little bit of this goes a long ways. So I can spread this out. And I'm going to get right to the edges. Stick this down. Now I can also use just a little tiny bit more on top. Now I don't want to go all the way over here, otherwise I've got glue where my D-ring wants to be able to pivot in there. This dries very, very quickly, and it dries clear. So it goes on white, but it dries clear. And you don't need a lot of this either, just as long as it's wet. There. So I can do both of them at the same time and get everything glued. I'll just leave that one for now. You have a little bit of working time with this. It's not like once it's stuck forever, as long as we don't put too much pressure on it. Now what I'm going to do is, well, first of all, I'm going to get my glasses so that I can actually see up close. And I'm going to very carefully as I possibly can, I'm going to line up my edges. I'm going to use very light pressure just so that it stays where it's supposed to. And I'm just trying to get all of my edges lined up the best that I can. There. I am going to edge coat, and I could have edge coated when it was still left like this. I could have edge coated just this inside right here on both sides, but it's not that big of a deal. I'm going to, when I do my edge coating, I'm just going to move my D-ring out of the way for both sides and get all of that done. But that's as simple as it is. Now, with that piece of lining in there, it has no stretch. Well, it has a very tiny, tiny bit of stretch, but repeated use is not going to end up breaking this out. We won't stretch our leather to the point where that is able to come out. So that is a strap connector. So I'm going to edge coat, and then I'm going to top stitch. Again, I have my parchment paper down so that it protects my work surface. I'm going to edge coat. Now, this is inexpensive and easy to find. You can get it online. You can also get it at Tandy. If you just want to get started with some edge coat, this is completely adequate as far as a product goes. There are better ones out there. Yes, absolutely. There's ones that are a lot more expensive, and they have their advantages when you're really getting into getting rounded edges and doing lots of coats. Now I can feel, just as I'm talking here, there's just a little bit of a nub here, and it probably just shifted ever so slightly when it was cutting. Now my little scissors these are my little Kai scissors. They're really quite sharp, so I should be able to just kind of, yeah, just shape that tiny little bit off there. Now, again, edge coating. There are probably 1,000 techniques. Do what works best for you. I find that just using an awl works very well for me. So I'm just going to dip just a tiny bit. Just getting a little bit on that edge to start off with, and then it can dry, and then I can swivel my D-ring. Now my sides. I will be doing a couple of coats at least. So this first one is just kind of going to be a base coat. This product does really dry quite fast as well. So now I can just kind of move that out of the way. There. So I've got my edges and my fingers. Got all my edges done. So I'm just going to set that aside for a few minutes and let that dry. My edge coat has dried now, and so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little emery board, and you can use sandpaper, whatever. I just find, actually I got these ones from Emmeline a long time ago. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a very light, just a light little sand, just to take off a little bit of imperfection, maybe some little rough edges. If you look really closely, you can tell this is 2 layers of leather, and there's a little bit of suede in between. When I do a second coat, it should just fill all of that in. So that's what I'm going to do now. So again, I'm just going to pull my D-ring back. There. So this actually, oh, good one. Yeah, I screw up too. Touch things I'm not supposed to. Looking into my camera viewfinder instead of at my project here. You can do as many layers as you want. I find mostly when I'm doing little pieces like this, because there's not going to be a lot of focus on them and attention to them, usually a couple of coats just to get that edge looking really nice so that it doesn't look like 2 pieces of leather together. And now, once this is dry, once this is really good and dry, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to top stitch. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I top stitch. I am working with my Titan 1541S Doodlebug Edition flatbed machine. I have Tex 90 bonded polyester thread. This is my 1/8 inch edge guide foot, so it has a little guide here, but it kind of moves up out of the way. Pretty much just leave it on my machine all the time. I have my stitch length set at about 6, and I'm just going to line up with the edge of the foot, and we're going to hold on to my thread here, and here we go. Yeah, this is actually how slow I actually go when I'm sewing all the time. Slow and steady. So I'm going to pull my thread back so that it exposes that stitch. Going to pull that through to the back, and then I'm going to continue on here. Whoops, didn't mean to do that one, but it'll be fine lifting up. There we go. And again, I'm going to pull this back through the back. Because you're getting such a close-up eye view here, you can see a little bit where my feed dogs have just kind of marred my leather a little bit. Those will disappear, but regardless, this is the back. This is going to be up against the purse. So this is my good side. My top stitching is on the good side here. So there we go. So that is the top stitching done. My piece is upward. My seam, or where I've stitched over, my threads are pulled to the back. I'm going to use just a little bit of fray check. This is something that it only takes half a second to do. I'm just going to kind of rub it in, rub it off, and it will help just kind of secure those stitches. It only takes a second, but it is going to save me the embarrassment of someone coming back with a purse where a stitch has kind of pulled loose and now it's kind of sticking up. So instead of that, I would rather just put a little bit of fray check on there. I will put fray check on the back as well. Just kind of, you can see it on there. Now I'm just going to basically kind of rub it in and rub it off. You can quite easily just use scissors and trim this off as well, but I have a little tool that I really like to use, and that is it's a battery powered, it's a thread zapper. Just the very tip of it gets really hot and just melts. Since this is bonded polyester, it works very well. And just have to push the little button. This is the reduced size Lola that I made. And I wanted to make it as a cross body, so that's why I used the strap connectors this way.
Because of the side seam here, if I had just, just done something really simple with just a loop with a D-ring in it and just riveted it on, I would have had to rivet through the seam really to get it centered. And I didn't want to do that. So that's why I went this way with it. To do it over again, I would actually put 2 more. I would go with 4 so that this curves around a little bit. This is fine. I'm happy with it. If I was unhappy with it, I would figure out a way to get those 2 in there without screwing everything up and making it not look really nice. So, so this is what I did with this one, and that's the reason why I needed a solution, and I just kind of kept going with. Now I had my little D-rings on there. What else could I do to liven it up a little bit more? So this is actually a zipper end that I used. This little strap is actually only a 3/8 inch strap. It's a double-sided leather, and I've edge coated it as well. Used another just a little piece. Let me see if I can get a better angle on this. Just use another little piece of leather, put that through, riveted through both, and yeah, it's an experiment. It worked. I'm quite happy with it. As much as possible, I like to have my marks for punching my holes so that I'm kind of not doing it at awkward angles, which is why on the Lola, why I didn't put those extra 2 in there, because I already had it attached. Now if I go back and try and get everything symmetrical and put on properly, chances of me screwing it up are pretty high. So I just avoided that and left it the way it was. Now, I can see here, I don't do everything perfect. My top stitching is a little bit off here. This isn't perfectly straight. And I'm going to cut myself some slack because in order for you to be able to see what I was doing as well as you could, I had my camera almost right up against my machine. So I was having a hard time seeing. But even this is acceptable to me. There's no problem with that. But before people write to me and say, hey, you screwed up. Now I'm going to mark for my rivets. So I'm using my I love this little 3.5 by 3.5 inch ruler. It's great for these little tight spots. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up at 3/8 and 3/8. It's kind of an arbitrary number, but that's what works for me. I don't want it too close to the edge because my rivet, you have to think about the fact that the rivet is round. So you don't want it right at the edge or it's going to hang over. But this looks pretty good to me. I'm going to be roughly a 1/4 inch in from my top stitching. And hopefully this will make a mark. Yeah, it does. So that's where I'm going to mark that. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. And now, if I wanted to put the extra one, I'm going to say I would probably put it right about here. So measure up. Now I'm going to line up 3/8 inch on the side here. And it's going to be approximately 3/4 of an inch. So if I look at my mark here, that's going to be 3/4 of an inch up to the top. That's going to be a little bit too high. I'm going to go 5/8. Then I'm kind of going across where this curve starts. Again. So to here, that'll be 5/8. I use the Tandy Pro punch, the craft tool, or it's craft tool. I do have an affiliate link for this one. So it's the craft tool. It is available at Tandy, but you can also get it on Amazon. So I do have an affiliate link. Now, what I always do, because I can never get it eyeballed just right, I'm trying to get on that mark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I'm pretty close, and I'm just going to put a very gentle pressure. And when I lift off, I can see kind of the ring around where my punch was. So I just kind of test it. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And there I have it. So now I can use this as my template as well. When I hold it up to my purse, I'm going to make sure that I have everything centered. I want to know what my center is on here. So I could, this pen that I'm using, this is, well, it is from Tandy, but it's just probably at any leather places you can get them, and it's just a silver. It comes off quite easily, so it shows up quite nicely. I think I have shown this before in other videos, and just with a little tiny bit of moisture, you can get it to come off pretty well. So that's why so I know this is 2 inches wide. So if I was needing to line this up on my purse, like on my, well, let's just mark this first. So I'm just going to put just a tiny little mark there. And I don't have anything handy other than this. So if I was lining this up, I would line my little mark on my handbag, or where I'm going to place it. Then I can use another marker, or, I mean, this wouldn't show up very well because of the light color of this, so my silver pen wouldn't work very well. But if I used just a little dot, if I was sure of where my positioning was, and I used a little black felt pen or something else that's temporary, and just to mark that a little bit, then I know where I can punch, because I'm going to punch my holes in my bag as well, then put my rivets through. So I hope this gives you some ideas, and I will be posting the JPEG to this in my Friends of Debbie Hunker Facebook group. I'll put the link in the description in case you're not a part of my group, and hope to see you there.